Hi people, it's me again as always, Marina Ravenberg. Hold on, give me a second. There is a topic that I'm going to discuss. As always, get in there. Yeah. Yeah. As the header of this video states, I'm going to do a video on the topic referencing the saying or referring to the saying, "It's better to die on your feet than live on your knees." And also why so many people and civilizations throughout history have failed to live up to that saying, so to speak. So yeah, there's a saying called, it's better to live on your knees. It's better to die on your feet than live on your knees. And by that it's meant that it's better to die with your freedom preserved or being completely autonomous, rather than to live under someone's yoke, rather than to live under someone's, rather to live as a subjugated, okay, by some foreign entity. Okay, just think of colonialism, you name it. Think of slavery, you name it. Okay, so an example is if, for example, someone wanted to subjugate me, okay, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees, referring to the fact or meaning that I would rather die completely independent and free as I am, rather than be dependent and or excessively reliant. So basically, rather be a servant or a slave or a subject of my enemy or opponent. That's what the saying means. And in case you haven't noticed, most people that are familiar with basic history know that throughout history, a good deal of civilizations, people, empires, okay, have subjugated others, and in their turn have been subjugated after a while. It's like a dog-eat-dog world, basically. When you take a look at mankind's history, it's literally killed or be killed, or better said, subjugate or be subjugated. So either be a ruler or be someone's slave. And the reason so many civilizations have not been able to adhere to said saying, the saying of this video, is because of inherent weakness, honestly. Okay, because it's one thing to use this saying, and it's one thing to say this saying, this phrase, this parable, if you will. It's one thing to simply talk about it, but it's a whole other thing to actually exercise it and to practice it. Okay, because make no mistake about it. If you, for example, if your country is at war with another country, and your country ends up being the loser in said exchange, in said battle or war, and your new quote-unquote overlord says, your new ruler country says, okay, you have a choice, either be a willing subject, so be subject to me, okay, be my willing slave, or we'll kill all of you. You know, generally speaking, the saying, it's better to die on your knees than live on your, it's better to die on your feet than live on your knees, would apply here. Any proud civilization or any proud country would say, okay, you're gonna have to kill all of us, burn everything to the ground, but we'll not submit, we'll never submit. But generally speaking, for the most part, as far as I know, based on world history, that has not been the case, okay? That's why you have pretty much the majority of the third world that's in place, and practically every country in the third world has been, and in some cases, rare cases, is up to this day still a colony, or is still a nation that is subjugated or has been subjugated and is still subject to a higher foreign power, to its colonizer, if you will. And yeah, like I said, the reason is for inherent weakness, and understand that this spreads even down to an individualistic level. When the moment comes when people have to stare death in the face, a surprising amount of people are terrified of death, which is idiotic, honestly, but again, weakness comes into play here. A lack of human development, a lack of spiritual awareness and consciousness, because someone that has a good amount of self-worth and is and a good amount of spiritual and mental fortitude, astral fortitude, will not allow himself to be subjugated. I, for example, would much rather die literally on my feet than live on my knees, as in be subject to someone else. Of course, this excludes things that I don't have control over. Okay, within a hypothetical context, I myself am subject based on the rules and regulations of the world as we all are and live in. But I simply mean that if I'm faced with a foreign aggressor, I would rather die on my feet. If it were to come to either death or hypothetical enslavement, I would rather die than be enslaved. But like I said, you really need a hefty backbone for that. And like I said, it spreads across the individualistic levels. Okay, a plain and simple example is someone that how should I put it? Someone that that finds himself in undesirable or under undesirable circumstances. Life is pain and misery. You have to make do with a dead-end job, blah 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 blah, etc. 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 And the person says, nah. Okay, the person sees no realistic way to advance in his or her life. Rather than actually come to a rational decision and ending his life, not that I'm advocating that, don't misunderstand me. I simply mean even looking at that as an option, okay, it's not something the person would do. And as a result, you see people keep struggling and keep sinking deeper and deeper. There is always a solution and there's always a way. Again, I'm not advocating suicide. I'm not saying suicide. But I'm simply saying the idea of actually coming to a rational decision as in, hey, listen, my life is going nowhere. There's no realistic way in which I can make things better for myself. So what do I do? Because I'm not going to keep living like this. I don't want to keep living like this. Rather than actually coming to a clear-cut decision as in, hey, this has to stop now, bam. It just goes on and on and on, okay? And as a result, you see people literally just surviving but not living. You see them literally surviving and not living. They keep sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into basically a quicksand of misery. And yeah, to the point where they either end up alongside the street, like panhandlers or beggars, or they end up in a mental institution or similar. Point is, honestly, I would much rather die than end up alongside the street. Okay, if things get so bad in life, regardless of what I do, and I end up literally alongside the street, then I would. I'm not saying I'd kill myself, but based on principle, are you kidding me? I would pretty much embrace the Grim Reaper. I would pretty much embrace the Grim Reaper. Okay, but not that I have to, of course. Me and my beloved Lord Samael and all. But hypothetically speaking, I would much rather embrace that than I would much rather embrace that than just go through life living like, I think even stray dogs have a better quality of life, eating out of trash cans and doing things like that. It's just, that's not living again. But see what I'm talking about? The people that the people that fall into this kind of disdain, existential disdain, it's a form of weakness. That doesn't mean that these people are to blame, of course. That also doesn't mean that that it's their fault, etc. If it's written, or if it has been written, that it's your fate to live like a beggar alongside the street, then yeah, that's what's going to happen. But still, from a neutral perspective, or from a neutral point of view, from the POV of a neutral person, it boils down to weakness, because a strong person, okay, would not allow himself to, would definitely not stay like that. Like I said, it's either do or die, literally do or die. But yeah, as a result, you see people keep struggling and keep sinking away deeper and deeper into a life of disdain and misery, and just hit rock bottom over and over again, and rock bottom keeps going deeper and deeper. The bottom within rock bottom keeps getting deeper and deeper, and it's it's definitely not pleasant, to say the least. That's the understatement of the century. It's definitely not pleasant. But see, again, it refers to my point. Okay, if the saying is a nice saying, it's better to die on your feet than live on your knees. Great saying and everything. It's also been used in pop media, courtesy of the movie 300. Yeah, but the old movie 300. But still, in reality, not a lot of people adhere to that saying. It's better to live on your feet than die on your knees, because, like I said, it's a form of weakness. The one thing that people fear is death, and that's also why a lot of nations, a lot of civilizations and empires have been subjugated. Of course, there are other factors that come into play, but when it boils down to it, if you seriously stand in front of someone pointing a gun to their head and you tell them, okay, I'm just going to give a crude example. No offense, I'm going to give a crude example. Lick my asshole or I'll shoot you. I'll kill you right here, shoot you through the head. Are you seriously doubting the fact that that person won't lick your asshole and will choose death? I think statistically, only 1 or 2 out of 10 people would actually say, okay, shoot me. I'll be one of them because I'm not licking anyone's asshole. But the other 8 are gonna pucker up like there's no tomorrow. I repeat, the other 8 are going to pucker up, as in they're going to lick your asshole. Because like I said, when it boils down to it, people, when they're faced with death, when they're faced with their life coming to an end, the thought alone terrifies them. So they would rather face whatever gruesome punishment their oppressor throws their way or puts them under. They would much rather live under the most inhospitablest of yokes rather than simply die with their head held high. Obviously, I'm heavily in favor of the saying itself and adhering to it. Okay, no. Die on your feet rather than live on your knees. But yeah, if more people were like me, history would be substantially different. But that's not the case. Not that I'm dissing anyone or that I'm speaking ill of anyone. I'm simply saying you can see humanity's weakness when it comes to this subject. You can see how weak people tend to be. Okay, like I said, it's not something that people control in general. Some of them have options to become stronger, but if your fate is already sealed from the get-go, so if your destiny is to be weak, then yeah, vi victus, woe to the vanquished. But yeah, you can see for yourself, and it's the same thing. And history just keeps repeating itself over and over again. Like I said, this literally seeps through down to individualistic levels. People are allowing themselves to become subject, even within the confines of daily life. Like I said, okay, people would rather make do with a dead-end job. I mean, if you don't deserve more, then you don't deserve more. But if you really deserve more, then you'll do whatever you need to do in order to not work a dead-end job for the rest of your life. But people would rather work a dead-end job than actually just die. and yeah, you see human weakness, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Okay, and it's like I said, it's indicative of weakness. That's all I have to say. But yeah, again, to anyone that's watching this, I would strongly advise you, die on your feet and do not live on your knees, because surviving isn't living. Bye.